Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, in my opinion, is at best the most frustrating entry in the series. And at worst, I genuinely believe one of the worst gameplay design-wise games in the series. Where do we even start with this?
Well, actually, I think we should start about a good thing.
Okay.
We'll start off on a good note.
Okay.
Because something I actually really like about this game is I never played this game up until about 4 or 5 years ago for the first time. And growing up, I had always played 358 on the DS, and I love that game. And it wasn't until I played Rechain of Memories that I actually saw how cool the story of that game and this game are. Because the story of that game and this game actually are connected. Like, there's times in 358 where, like, you know, you're playing as Roxas and, you know, Axel's like, well, I'm heading out to Castle, you know, and then you're like, okay, cool. Well, then you see in this game, and he actually appears.
Yeah, he starts popping up in Castle Oblivion.
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh, okay, well, I remember where you were, because I literally just played that from Roxas's perspective. So I just think it's cool how they connect. And there's times where you get some storyline from Roxas's parts through stuff like journals and stuff like that, where Roxas keeps hearing Axel and Syx and all them talk about Castle Oblivion and the stuff going on over there, but you never really know what's going on, actually. You just hear stories. And you actually see Axel and all them's perspective from, you know, with the nobody's side. Instead of with Sora's side.
Well, Nomura did connect these games really well.
Yeah.
I mean, like, obviously, we are not game designers.
Right.
We're just players of video games. But in terms of the story, I think that there is a lot of connections that are done really well. And I do also think that there's a lot of connections with Chain of Memories going forward. You kind of pointed out this is one of the most important story steps in the franchise. I played Kingdom Hearts 2 without ever playing Chain of Memories in the past.
Yeah, me too.
And there's a lot that doesn't make a ton of sense if you do that, because you miss a ton of character development. And there's also issues of like, oh, this is Organization 13, there's 13 members. Where are all of them?
Yeah.
Because so many of them die in the course of this game at Castle Oblivion. And you don't even know that going into 2. You basically are put in a position where you're Sora. You're waking up from a sleep of a year, essentially, and you have no memory of how you got there. And you just start at that point and then move on. And also before that, you're kind of thinking, well, who's Roxas? Why am I doing this part?
Well, yeah.
They explain that.
And that's the problem with just starting in 2.
Yeah. So this game is necessary.
Right. I'd say this one and, well, 358 I'd say is kind of necessary. Although if you don't play that game, it's not the end of the world.
No, but it's necessary for Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
Because by the time you start to see things like Xion, you're like, who's this? Right. If you haven't played that. Yeah, I think that the story definitely needs to be recognized. It's a very good story. I think that it's funny that it kind of breaks down to a bunch of adults gaslighting a teenager for...
That's literally the story, yeah.
20 hours. But you're making your way through Castle Oblivion through these floors, and there is also a Riku story as well that ties into what's going on with him. And you pretty much get to the top, and it's kind of introducing you to other characters there that then will play a future role in the franchise.
Actually, one more good thing. I like the cards. Not the gameplay aspect of them, but just the idea of cards. I think that's cool.
And creating rooms out of
them. Yeah, and
them.
how you can, like, pick what world you want to play next, using cards and all that stuff. I think it's cool.
So here's what frustrated me. A positive of this game is that it does remix the original game.
Yeah.
So that's good. Because you go through worlds, and say you're talking to Leon or Aerith or Yuffie, and they'll talk to you about certain stuff from the past, and you will remember it differently than them, because that's the whole point. You're really getting gaslit this whole game. So as you progress through this world, there's a lot of things that happen differently, and you're thinking, wow, this is actually interesting. But the big problem with that is that there's not much original content in this game. Yes, the story is remixed. However, you're still progressing through mostly the same worlds in a fairly similar order, with the same music for the most part, the same reused assets. I'm mainly talking about Rechain of Memories, because it's really just all the PS2 stuff from the original game. At the very least, in Chain of Memories, with the Game Boy Advance graphics and things going on there, you do have some positives with that, where you can enjoy it for what it is, and obviously it was created the way it was because of technical limitations of the Game Boy Advance. But when you get to Rechain of Memories, I think a lot of these issues are more apparent, because that's really the one to play if you want voiced dialogue and the cutscenes that tie in, extra content. And the big problem I have with it is that if you want all of the story, you have to slog through repetitive gameplay, repetitive worlds that you already played through in a more interesting, better game before, with all of the same assets and everything. It's pretty much just the ideas of Kingdom Hearts 1 reused but worse. But now the combat is hindered by numbers. And I think that is the biggest thing to me that hurts this, is I could slog through the repetition if only it wasn't for this damn card system. As you play, you go through worlds and you create new rooms in the worlds out of cards. That's awesome. If it stopped there, great. I'm on board. But the problem is that they changed the action RPG combat that was pretty much just straight up button press and response. They start changing it to a more card-based system that relies on numbers, and it's not deep. People try and make it deep online. I understand you can make deep decks that have a lot of number strategy to them, but overall it's a fairly shallow system, because the idea is essentially just having a higher number than the other person, or doing a 0 when they have a super high number. Then you interrupt their attack and you hit them. That's essentially the whole idea of the combat, and I really think that it tried to add strategy, but there's not a lot of strategy in I should just have a higher number.
Yeah, it's not very deep.
No.
Well, and especially when you get to the boss fights and stuff like that, where their entire deck is littered with zeros. So you try doing anything and just boom, 0. It's like, okay, how many of these do you have?
Oh yeah,
it's so annoying. Like, the 0 card system is obnoxious.
The Vexen boss fight that we did recently was such a prime example of that. This is all going to be on the Let's Play channel, Degenerate Plays. That boss fight was so bad because essentially it's just you and him taking turns interrupting each other with zeros.
Yeah.
So you want to wait for him to just stack a bunch of cards, then you do a 0. But he'll wait for you to do the same thing, then he'll do a 0.
It's just, it's stupid.
Yeah.
It's not even fun. You know, and the thing is, when I play Kingdom Hearts, I don't really want to do math.
No.
You know, like, I don't want to see, like, a 9 card pop up and then have to be like, oh, now I have to stack a 6 and a 5 together because that's over 9. It's like, I just want to attack.
You know, it could have worked in a turn-based system, too.
In a turn-based system, it could have worked.
Or if you just did Final Fantasy Combat.
Yeah.
Because that actually would have been a way around these. You know, how many games on the Game Boy Advance, and actually even going all the way back, turn-based combat has often been used to disguise the inability to do insane combat.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorite combat systems, but what I mean by that is you don't need to do Dragon Ball Z level combinations in order to sit there and in Final Fantasy X do an attack.
Right.
And of course it also has a lot of strategy behind it too, so they really could have fixed this if they had either done a card plus turn-based system or just a turn-based system in this game. And I think it would have been fine.
Or just, to be honest, have no card combat at all.
Right, that's true.
Just have the normal combat.
It's just I don't think they would have done that really because of the limitations of the GBA. But they could have kind of done away with that when they remade the game.
Right. And yeah, I think the card system is probably... It's literally my least favorite aspect about this game. It's the reason why I don't really ever want to play it. It's because the card-based combat system sucks so badly. It's not fun. You know, as I'm going through, I don't want to like cycle through my deck and strategize. Oh, I gotta do the lightning plus this keyblade plus where's that other card? Oh, this card. Oh, that does a combo. It's like I don't care.
Right.
I just want to do an attack, and I don't want to have to keep cycling through my deck all the time.
Well, it's not because you're a brainless idiot. You do those thought processes in Kingdom Hearts when you say, should I use Thundaga here or should I just hit him?
Right.
You already do that kind of stuff. It's just the idea of needing to memorize combinations of cards.
It's stupid. It's pointless. It's not very fun. And to me, it's just such a disappointment in an otherwise pretty great franchise.
It's weird because the gameplay carries Dream Drop Distance.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to carry Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories. I mean, I guess the story, but you don't get enough of it.
Right.
Most of the story in the game takes place between worlds.
Yeah.
And it's such a slog to get through a world. And if you try and push through it quickly, and you don't take the time to level up. I think that's the other problem, is I really think that the combat system in this game is pretty unbalanced. In this game, if you don't have a certain amount of your CP, which is your card points, okay? Card points, although there's a few members of the organization that might have another kind hidden in Castle Oblivion. If you don't have enough of that or enough HP, you're just going to lose.
Yeah.
Now, I'm sure there's somebody who can do it, but for the most part, you need to start building that up and just grinding levels in order to have an overabundance of card points and HP, so that inevitably when you're sitting there having to reload your stupid deck mid-battle, you're not getting absolutely creamed. And that's a problem.
That's the other aspect about the cards that I hate, is when you reload the decks, you lose some of the cards based on the combos you choose. Like, that's stupid.
Yeah. And that's where things like not high potions, the elixirs and stuff like that come in. I guess high potions as well, but fine. There is strategy to it. It's just, it's such a downgrade from Kingdom Hearts 1.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily that different combat systems are bad and can't work in Kingdom Hearts. I mean, 358 does a different combat system. It's not the exact same as it is in all the other ones. It was very obviously designed for the DS. But it works, and it doesn't feel obnoxious. You're not sitting there like, oh, I have to fight this guy in order to get this cutscene with Roxas. You're thinking, I get to fight this guy.
Yeah.
And I think that's a main difference, is most people I talk to who play Chain of Memories, it's not feeling like, oh boy, I get to play the game. It's, well, I'm playing through the series, I guess I have to play the game. And I don't think anyone really has that with Kingdom Hearts 1, a game where the worlds feel alive, there's a sense of exploration and drama, the combat is super intuitive and fun. Where is all of that here?
Well, I would say a big difference going off that is you can really tell if you are grinding levels in the first Kingdom Hearts game as opposed to this Kingdom Hearts game. The first Kingdom Hearts game is, at the very, very, very least, it's fine. I mean, it's fun.
When you're grinding?
Yeah, when you're just sitting there grinding because you reload the areas, go out battle, whatever. It's a fun combat system. I don't mind grinding levels in that game at all. In this game, it's a chore. And when I say a chore, I mean like the worst possible chore you can ever do. Like, I sit down and I'm like, oh great, like, here's 30 minutes of my life I'm not ever going to get back. And that's literally how I feel grinding in this game, or battling, or playing the game, or boss battles, or doing anything. You just kind of constantly think, here's 30 minutes of my life I'm not ever going to get back.
For the original Chain, because we're mainly talking about Rechain here, I feel like a different review could be done for the original Chain eventually, because it at least has charm.
Yeah.
But you're not getting any of that charm here. And what I mean by that is you're not getting the cool pixel art graphics where you're kind of walking through a room and you're like, oh, cool, they designed Captain Hook's ship but on a Game Boy. Wow, that's charming. You're not getting any of that in Rechain of Memories. You're like, oh, reused assets from Kingdom Hearts 1, but less fun, the same music, but I've heard it 100 times. So coming off of Kingdom Hearts 1, I really do believe that if you play Rechain of Memories, it comes off as, oh, I'm playing the same game I just played, but way worse.
Yeah.
You should never really feel that way going into a sequel.
Well, and the other thing about Rechain for me is the game itself just feels lazy. And what I mean by that is, like you said, it uses a lot of reused assets from Kingdom Hearts 1, which is very lazy. But the other part of it to me is when you're in the cutscenes, and I'm not talking the voice-acted cutscenes, I'm talking the ones where they just have the dialogue bits on the top. There's the same exact song that plays over and over again. And it's not even like it's like a 2-minute song that they just do on repeat. It's literally like the same 10 notes.
You know, it's that one that's like do 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 do
literally.
do 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 do.
That's it. That's it. That's the end of the song, and then they repeat it.
That's the other thing, by the way. Speaking of that,
that is lazy.
I need to add to the laziness. You know how I said there's voice dialogue?
Yeah.
Basically, only in the hallways between worlds.
Yes.
So as you make your way through a floor, you get to a floor. That floor is a Disney or Kingdom Hearts original world.
Yes.
Then you get outside and there's a room where maybe there's a boss battle with an Organization 13 member. That's where the dialogue happens that's voiced. The rest of it is not voiced.
Yeah.
Which, let's be honest, there's not a ton of excuse for that much unvoiced dialogue in a PS2 era game. There's just not. Because they do it in all of the other games that are on console. You'll have some things that are not voiced, but in this game, I'm talking almost nothing is.
Yeah.
Almost no dialogue is voiced in this game.
Yeah, it's literally just if you're talking to an organization member.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else in the game is not voiced.
Even then, sometimes it's not voiced.
Yeah.
Because things like the organization encounter in Traverse Town.
Yeah.
It'll just be word bubbles.
Yep.
Which now, look, I'm fine with silent games, but the point that I think we're making is that there's just so many corners this game cuts to be lazy.
Yeah. Including not developing... Like, if you're going to have the silent, word bubble story, fine. But have a song that does not go on repeat after 10 notes, and then you have to sit there and just listen to the song over and over and over again, and by the time you're done with the cutscene, you've heard the same exact song 50 times.
Well, don't you love that
because
song,
it takes 4 seconds to get through it.
It might be my favorite song I've ever heard. I wish it had
I'm very happy.
Notes. I wish it just had one note, so it could be played do, 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 over and over like a fire alarm. I don't know, and you know what else, by the way? There's no other Keyblades in this game. Well, Jay, actually, there's a lot of Keyblade cards. Sure, they do different things, but you just have the Kingdom Key the whole time. It's
so lazy.
There's almost no places where this game could go above and beyond that it did.
Yeah.
And that's kind of my problem with it, mainly, is that everywhere that you'd think, oh, now that we're on the PS2, we can do more with that. It doesn't do. It just essentially faithfully recreates a game that already had problems. And it doesn't even fully faithfully recreate it because the 3D battlefield that you're in makes the game balancing different than it was on the Game Boy Advance.
Right.
It just is. So because of that, you've got all of the problems that the original chain had with none of the charm. And I actually think that the way that you were talking about the gameplay of Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop carries it. I think that the charm of the original Chain of Memories helped carry you through the game. It still had problems, but you were enjoying it because of all of that charm of the Game Boy Advance. And because of that old pixely style kind of retro thing that's been lost to a lot of gaming, that sort of style can carry you through a lot of mediocrity in the original title that I don't think anything works to carry you through in Rechain. And I think that the voiced dialogue was supposed to, but it's so few and so far between that it does not.
Yeah, that's kind of my biggest problem with this game, is just kind of like what we've been saying the whole time, is it seems like they really just cut a lot of corners. And it just really developed into a bad game. Like, not bad game as in just, this is the worst thing I've ever played, but just a bad Kingdom Hearts game.
There is a Riku story mode, which should help carry this game, by the way.
Yeah.
But you have to push so far into the Sora recycled story mode to get the Riku story mode that I would argue by the time you get to it, it actually hurts it. The cool thing is you actually get to see what's going on with Riku. Again, it's a story element that helps elevate the game, right?
Right.
And you get to interact with other organization members with Riku and kind of deal with his inner turmoil. That kind of stuff is really well done, but it's done in such a mediocre entry in the franchise. Because if we're ranking the stories, this might be one of my favorite stories.
Yeah, it's a great story. It's a great story.
But it's one of my least favorite games because you have to slog through so much crap to get to that story. I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts on this? Because I really do think that if you wanted this game to be different, I think turn-based would have solved all of this. I would have loved a turn-based Kingdom Hearts game with Final Fantasy X combat. It was all right there. It was a PS2 game done years earlier. Yeah, same company. I mean, I think that all of the building blocks were there to do a sort of original Kingdom Hearts, even more Final Fantasy-like game. And I actually think that this might have ended up being one of my favorites if they had done that.
Right.
Genuinely, because you'd have all the good story, and then you'd have such a unique Kingdom Hearts game, not in the sense the combat sucks, because it's already unique that it sucks, but unique because it would be more like Final Fantasy. It'd be like a marriage of the two series in gameplay form. I would have loved that. Or, just, when you remake it, just redo the combat at 1. You're already being lazy.
Right, just reuse that.
Why'd you bother with the cards? Either way works, I think.
Yeah, I think having, if you want to be different with the combat, doing turn-based would have been so much better. As good as the story is, the gameplay sucks so much that it just makes it unplayable. But the problem is you still have to play it, so it's just, my overall thoughts on the game are, the story's great, everything else about this game sucks. It's so disappointing because the game is so important that the game sucks so much. Like, that's what's so disappointing to me.
Well, and the reason I bring up the turn-based stuff too is I don't want people to think, well, it's different, that's why you don't like it. I would have been overjoyed to see a different type of game in a turn-based Kingdom Hearts game.
Mm-hmm.
Would have loved it. But instead of getting that, we get the most mediocre, attempting to be deep card system I have ever seen.
Yeah, I don't think our opinions on this game are too high, as everyone could tell.
No. Let us know what you think in the comments down below. What are your thoughts on Kingdom Hearts Rechain of Memories, and why do you think Goofy Rule 34 is probably more interesting than this game? Interested to hear your thoughts down below. Please let us know, and if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe for more content. We are going to do more Kingdom Hearts videos. I also really want to do more Final Fantasy videos, actually. Let me know if there's anything you want to see, top 5s, reviews, analysis, anything like that. I'm interested. Have a fantastic day, and as always, everyone, stay shui.